Welcome to Two Souls Podcast, a podcast to shift, impact, empower, and disrupt your consciousness, ultimately allowing you to thrive in this human experience. Now here are your hosts, Amber Meganhauser and Angela Blaha. Welcome to Two Souls Podcast. I'm Angela, and how are you today, Amber?
I'm fantastic. How about you?
Great. All right, what do we get to chat about today?
Today, I thought we'd talk a little bit about resistance. Why do we resist things that are right in front of our face and there's multiple signs trying to pull us in a direction, but our mental mind just talks us out of everything and we resist what we really should be flowing with?
Well, lots of different reasons, but mostly, it's scary to be in alignment. Because we are not used to having life be so perfect. And when we move into an alignment, a state of alignment where the signs are all around us, right? And there's a sense deep within us that says, this is going to be good for us, right? This is going to be really good for us. That we still have that resistance because, well, what would life be without chaos? And what would life be without, questioning ourselves? And what would life be without worry and doubt? And, we have real deep penetrated fear within us to have heaven on earth, to have that whole concept of a life that's perfect when we've never really had a life that's been perfect. Especially if we have some traumas in our past, we still have those feelings or that energy that says, I'm not really worthy of having a perfect life. even if the decision or the symbols and the signs that are around us, trying to push us into a different path into our life, like a career path or a relationship path, right? Even if we have all the signs and the symbols, we still have that doubt is still there at some level.
So how do you reach the point where you don't have that doubt? Or how do you ask the right questions to know which side of the fence you're supposed to hop over?
Well, that's the whole deal, right?
Go ahead. I've just had this decision that I need to make, and instantly in the beginning, I was like, this is a hard no for me. And I just kind of disregarded the whole thing. And then about a week later, it hit me like a brick and was just like, why are you resisting this? This is meant for you. This will expand you even more. And I could help on so many different levels. But I chose to just totally disregard it instead of being open to it and realizing that this was a really amazing opportunity, and I'm totally holding myself back from it instead of just accepting what's for me. Like, why do we do that? And how can we be aware of what we really, I don't want to say should be doing, but what is aligned with us? Like, how do we know the difference?
Well, that's where decisions come in, right? So let's say we're on a path, right? And we're on the healing path and, the shaman path. And we're we feel like this is really what we want to do. Yet there's something else that's sort of missing, right? We know that it's sort of missing. I mean, back in the back of our mind, we know that there's something just a little bit more missing. But this is fulfilling for right now. And it's so what happens is you have to, when something else comes in and disrupts that energy, Like, you know, like what's happening with you right now. You know, there's something that's coming in. It's disrupting the energy, or it's disrupting the flow, and it's like questioning, making you question. And when that happens, what we should really do is take a step back and say, oh, hold on here. There's a disruption that's coming in. Is the path that I thought I wanted to be on really my path, or is that someone else's path? Am I just like have shiny syndrome, you know, shiny object syndrome over here on this path? Or is it really who I am? Right? Does it like totally fulfill and drive extreme passion within me? Or is it just shiny object syndrome? Because disruptions come in for purposes, right? They come in to disrupt our energy and to sort of like make us either take a turn, do a pivot, or, you know, make us dive deeper into the current path, right? So either way, you're going to make a pivot here.
Yeah.
You're either going to go super deep into the healing world, or you're going to make the change and say, okay, I want to be over here because of, you know, because of this benefit, and this benefit. I see this, how this can play out in my life. And maybe I can be an expert at both. Right? So I can have all of the, you know,
I think,
go ahead.
I think that's exactly what's happening. Is I feel like if I make this decision, I'm holding myself back from my real potential of who I am.
So explain that a little bit more. Like, what is your real potential?
I guess I feel like what I want, who I want to be. I want to be the greatest shaman that ever lived. But I obviously I feel that if I make this choice, that I'm not going to be able to focus on that as much as I am right now. So I feel like it will pull me in a different direction. And that I think that's what's holding me back with it. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so if we actually believe in abundance, can't we have everything?
Yeah, I don't know why I feel like I always have to pick one or the other, because I can absolutely have both.
Right. Well, that's part of our belief systems, right? No, you can't have two careers all at once. You'd be overworked, blah, blah, blah. No, that's a lie. You know, if you really understand your own potential, you can be 16 different things all at once. I mean, I was reading an article yesterday about this powerful woman leader, and she had created 3 different pathways. 3. And ginormous companies in each one of them, right? She's just the department head, like literally, she's the head, and she's the mastermind of all of it. And then she just, you know, tells everybody else what to do. I mean, it's phenomenal how she's like thriving and loving her life, living fully in abundance, right? So we have these weird belief systems that say we have to pick this or we have to pick that. We have to choose. We can't we can't bring it all together. We have to choose, which is just ridiculousness, because we can have it all. I mean, heck, look at my life. I have 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes different things that I'm working on, doing, pulling together.
Yeah. As you're talking about this, I'm sitting here like, why do people feel like you do have to choose? Like, because I mean, I make it work now. Why am I holding myself back saying, no, I have to resist that because I won't be able to be who I want to be? That's total BS.
Well, so we have this So the only reason that you would not be able to be who you want to be in that kind of a position is that you would allow yourself to be influenced by people around you in that position. See, that's where our real fears are. Is, oh, if I make this career move or if I make this relationship move, then I have to change, right? We think we have to change to fit the mold of that relationship or that career. We think we have to fit into that.
Yeah.
We don't have to fit into anything. If we actually just be ourselves, life like becomes super, super easy.
Yeah. And I feel like that with this decision too. I really sat with it, yes, for the last 2 days. And I'm like, okay, I need some answers because this is just no.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of it too is we're afraid of our own potential because I do know that making this decision is going to make me a lot stronger than I am right now, but I'm still like resisted it for a really long time. And I'm like, what the heck? Like all of a sudden, and it just like all came to me yesterday. And I'm like, okay, like I get this. Like I finally asked the right questions to figure out what I needed to do for myself. And it's about being happy, right?
Right.
You don't have to pick one or the other. You're right. We can have it all. We can have as much as we want.
Mm-hmm. Well, so real potential and abundance in my energy are pretty much the same thing. Because if I'm actually tapping into my real potential, I am abundant and I am super happy, right? Like I'm thriving in my life. It's when I'm resisting, when I, it's the resistance component that brings in doubt or worry, or it makes me question, like, what am I really here to do? All those kinds of things. That's resistance. That's real resistance.
Yeah. And I do feel like I haven't been living my fullest potential lately.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. And
exactly.
I think, go ahead.
Well, that's if we actually looked at the energy and the vibration and the frequency of things, that's the resistance, right? When you're not living your full potential, it drives you crazy. It really does. That should be the resistance versus, a new career path coming in or a new relationship. And there might be some fear about that because you're like, oh, I got to fit in here. If I get this position or if I get this, or if I actually get into this relationship, I have to try to fit into, their expectation and blah, blah, blah. But that's what we think is the resistance. But the real resistance is behind the wall saying, you're not really super happy here. Like you're not living your potential. So we're going to disrupt the energy. We're going to bring in something that's going to, give you a more clear avenue to what is potentially your best, right? So we're going to disrupt the energy here. I mean, we're just masters at our own energy, aren't we? And the unconsciousness of it is what is always intriguing to me because the unconscious is going to bring in the disruption 100%.
Yeah.
And then we actually have to take a look at it.
Yeah. And too, that you are absolutely resisting things when things find you and you put up this wall and you're like, nope, not going there. And then a week later, it finds you again and you're like, okay, like there is a reason for this. And so that's when I like really sat and looked with it and realized that I have the potential to do a lot more. And not only that, it's rewarding to feel like you're doing more and and you're like a change in a really great way.
Right. Yeah. So why do we resist in the first place? Take your example. Like, why did you resist?
I think right in the beginning, it was the fear of not being able to be myself, I guess. But that was a complete lie because I can absolutely be myself and gain a lot from this whole situation. And I think it's other people's perspectives. You listen to other people say things about a certain situation, and you're not allowing yourself to give your own truth about it. You are, we all do that where we listen to other people's perspective on something, and so we immediately resist when that's their belief and their stuff. It has nothing to do with what I can do and how I can be a change.
Right. So if you're going to, take this disruption and flow with it, here's my advice is to put up really strict boundaries with yourself about what you're going to listen to and what you're not going to listen to. Like we've talked in numerous class about creating those standards and living by the standard. When there's disruptions that come into our life and, open us up to other potentials, that it's crucial to have those standards and those boundaries set and that you stick to them. Because, when we're opening ourselves up to something new, like we just want to fit in, right? Like we've been trained to fit in, and we just want to, be, there for everything. And we're like sponges in that kind of a space, right? Like we want to absorb everything, take everything in, sort of figure it out, and then find our place. That's not what we should be doing. I think men have an easier time in this transition place than women do because we do become sponges. I think men go in with the boundaries and they're like, look, this is how it's going to be. They already have the stage set and you all are going to fill these characters. You're all going to fill these places. Where women sort of go in, and if we're not acting in that masculine energy that we all carry, if we're not acting in that energy, then we become the sponge and we sort of say, okay, well, where do I fit in here? When in actuality, we should be going in as that leader with the boundary set, with the stage already ready and saying, okay, this, and this is going to change. So if you actually took
The
on
standards.
right, if you actually did take on that masculine energy within yourself and you actually have your standards set, then what? Now, if you look at the potential, the door opened, for a reason. Now that if you walk through that door, what does it look like versus being the sponge?
Yeah, it looks totally different.
Yeah, there are good times when we do need to be a sponge. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying when there's disruptions that come into our energy and potentials open, like we need to have those standards in place in those moments. Because then we don't make decisions based on our emotions, or we don't make decisions based on our past trauma, and we don't make decisions and we don't fall into those cracks, like in every place, whether it's a workplace or a relationship or a career difference, it doesn't matter. Every place has every potential from our past, right? Every place has those cracks that we can fall into. We can fall into those cracks of our past. Now, if we're actually living our standards that we've set and we say, yeah, okay, I'm not going back to that old trauma, right? I'm not going to relive that anymore in my future. And you actually set that stage, then you don't have the potential to fall into the crack. I feel like that's part of the reason why we doubt ourselves. I feel like that's part of the reason why we have these questions, like we resist, right? Is because, oh, here's something new, and geez, I don't know what to do. Right? The disruption comes in, something new opens up, and it's like, whoa, wait, what do I do here? Right? But if we actually have the standard and we're living by the standard, then it's like, oh, a potential. Well, I'm going to jump on that train and ride it for as long as I can until a new potential comes in, right? But if we're like, oh,
Yeah.
potential, and then the resistance comes in, and then that in that moment that we say, oh, a potential, and we have a little bit of that resistance to the brilliance of who we are, then all those standards go out the door. Because everything from our past starts coming in, starts replaying. Oh, we're on instant replay here.
That's just it. I think you're right, because our mind can only go backwards. So instead of looking at it as a potential, you just immediately want to resist it.
Right. There's two different levels of energy, right? There's a potential, like there's an excitement. There's a like, oh, this is a potential for me to fulfill who I am. And, oh, a potential, the two different vibrations, two different categories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can feel the difference in that, even just you saying that. And I'm like, yeah, I was totally looking at it like, oh, a potential. And I should have just been like screaming, hey, right. Look at all these potentials. Yes, that is a really great perspective on it.
Can you imagine how our life would change? Can you imagine how our life would change if we actually sat with ourselves and said, oh, a potential every single time versus, oh, yeah, I wonder what that is.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt as you were talking about it. I'm like, that is exactly what I'm going to start doing. Like everything is, oh, hey, a potential. Yes.
Yeah. The resistance, we don't even allow the resistance to come in when we approach everything in our life with, oh my God, here's a potential. Right? And because we're looking at it as a potential instead of fear, instead of doubt, instead of worry, instead of, our past. It's like, oh, this is a future potential. Yeah. Who could I be in this potential?
Yeah.
Right.
It totally changes everything when you look at it differently.
Yeah.
The same but different.
Right, exactly. I mean, the opportunity is always there. It's just how we are exploring the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just like sitting here with so much clarity right now. I'm like, yeah, it's all about how we look at it. So how we perceive everything, you decide whether it's an amazing potential or you're totally resisting it because of the fear from the past.
Yeah, and we think, we have this weird, well, it's not even a right belief that we have to heal, right? That is that's in the past. Like all of our healing has already been done on a soul level, on a human level. We've been playing that that perspective out for quite some time, hundreds of years actually. And now we're in the field of potentials, opportunities, creation. And we're still trying to work in the healing energy, right? So we need to change, especially women. Like I feel like this came in yesterday and it was really, really strong about creating a movement of like women and creating a movement of empowerment and of standards and of, we've become lazy. Our societies are lazy. And because we don't hold ourselves to standards. We don't hold any standards right now. So if we're actually going to be in the world of 5D energy, which is really potentials, opportunities, creation, then we have to hold ourselves to standards. I mean, the world can't hold me to my standards. I have to hold me to my standards. And you have to make these decisions to bring in the unconsciousness. Now, what would your life have been like if the moment you heard of this potential, because it's been in your energy for, a couple of weeks now, what if you actually said, oh, here's a potential, versus making your own soul self or your own energy disrupt your energy and create the fear? Well, it didn't create the fear, it disrupted. And when there's a disruption, we automatically go to fear versus, oh, a potential.
It would have had a totally different outcome.
Well, and can you see how much more empowered you would be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As we're talking about this, I'm sitting here like playing, like everything you're saying is like playing out in my head. And I'm just like, that is so crazy. Like, why do we absolutely go into that rejection mode, resistance, instead of looking at it like, I mean, we should be looking at every single thing out there as a potential,
Yes.
Whether it's career, relationship, anything. Mm-hmm. Everything is a potential. But we do totally sabotage ourselves for it.
Well, that's because we've been trained to. And it takes real consciousness to make that shift, and that's what the shift in consciousness is, right? Like that's what we're working through right now is saying, oh, okay, this is a potential versus, oh my God, what's the harm that's being done here, right? Like we can take the whole stuff that's happening in our world right now, this pandemic and this, all the division that we've had, all the like natural disasters that are happening are potentials, but yet we see them in lack because that's where we have been in the swing of consciousness, is where we've been living in the lack. And, in order to move out of the lack and into abundance, we have to shift our own perception. We have to shift our own conscious awareness. We have to start looking at the world in a whole different way. But Absolutely. Yeah, it's our training. It's all of our training. We come from lack, but how can we
not
change
anymore? We got we looking at everything as that. Yay! It's a potential. It will change everything. You can just feel the difference even when you say it.
Yeah, and it opens up more potentials.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not hard to make shifts in our own consciousness, in our own selves. We have to, the thing that has to shift is the perception. Perception, you've heard this, perception is everything. It's 100% of the game. Well, it is. I mean, I'm sure every one of you that are listening today felt the difference just in how I said a potential or a potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a vibration and energy difference. And it either opens the door up for more or you close yourself down, and that's the resistance. And then we start beating ourselves up, and we fall back into those old programs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great exercise for everybody. Like when you are thinking about something and you are resisting it, look at it as, oh, is this a potential or is this a potential? Because you can feel it. You'll know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That was a really great perspective on it. And I've been racking my brain for a few days thinking about this. So that helped me a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks everyone for listening today.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate everybody that has tuned in and listened. If you have any questions or would like to chat with Angela or I about something that you would like us to talk about, please feel free to reach out to one of us. Until next time, from our soul to yours, have a super fantastic day.